Welcome to What the Flick. Cenk has called a special meeting of What the Flick.
I did. I sent out a... I said we have to convene to review True Grit, partly because I loved it so much.
Yeah.
And there's some controversy as to whether it's good or not, and I wanted to settle it.
I don't think there's controversy as to whether it's good.
No, I've heard people say that they didn't like it. I don't mean among critics. I mean, I've heard several people that I know say, oh, True Grit's no good. And so then when I went to see it, it was great because it lowered my expectations. And then I was like, no, that's crazy talk.
All right, well, give a brief synopsis.
Right.
Of the movie.
So it's, a Western. It's a classic Western. Now, it's a Coen Brothers movie, so you might think that it's going to be a little off,
like
right?
Quirky.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. And
Quirky, by the way, there's a jump. That's such an unfair characterization but filled with sort of different developed characters and a look at America that is unlike any other, showing a part of life that you haven't seen before. Because you don't see No Country for Old Men and say, it's quirky.
Right. No, yeah. I hear you. Yeah. And Coen Brothers movies are now sometimes so different that they, to me, they don't necessarily. They don't have a logical line. They're not linear, right? They're not like, okay, you go here, 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 and then you have the conclusion of the movie. Well, it's not a classic movie.
Right. No Country for Old Men wasn't.
Oh, of course it wasn't, right? And of course, they're all different. All the movies are different. Anyway, but this is more of a classic Western. Now, they make it Coen Brothers in the dialogue, which we'll talk about in a second. But a person dies, 14-year-old daughter wants to avenge her father's death, goes and needs to hire a marshal, winds up hiring Jeff Bridges. Matt Damon is a Texas Ranger. He's also hunting for the same person that happens to be Josh Brolin, and the story unfolds, and they see if they can catch him, etc. Right? And now, so let's get started on why I thought it was great.
Okay.
Right? The dialogue was phenomenal. Like, I know the dialogue is good when I can't wait to rent the DVD and watch it again so I could absorb the lines so that I could then repeat them later.
You saw it in a theater?
Yes.
I saw a screener. So was the audience receptive to the lines? Did they? I mean, obviously, particularly...
That's a critical question for this movie, because here's what you got to be, if you haven't seen it, here's what you have to be ready for. It's hard to understand, okay? Yeah. Like Jeff Bridges especially garbles his words. Yeah. He's supposed to. That's the character, right?
Yeah, there's some... He's totally drunk in a lot of the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
And the character is. And so he does a great job with it, but half the time you're like, what? Come again? Jesus, Lord mercy. Right? So, and then half the time I was thinking, wait, did they hear the same thing I did?
Right.
And you would get the sense, because people would laugh.
Right.
But only half the people would laugh. And you'd be like, the whole crowd should have laughed on that one.
Right.
So, and that's a serious criticism of the movie. It's hard to hear and understand them sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
I agree, yeah.
I don't know what they could have done about it, because those are the characters, right?
Well, I mean, there's a moment where you still have the characters being sort of true to the manner in which they talk and still be understandable, I guess,
Yeah.
And maybe they didn't find it exactly right.
Right, and that's why I want to watch the DVD, because I want to do subtitles.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to take it a little easier with the movie. But look, the movie was about, as you see in the subtitle, retribution, right? And retribution is what you get, and I like the action. And then my second point is the acting was phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Yeah, the girl, Hailee Steinfeld, is that her name? Did I get that right? Yes. She's terrific.
She's great. I heard some criticism of her, and then before I went to the movie, I don't know who I was talking to, but it turns out, I was like, what the hell are they talking about? She was great.
Yeah, well, but she's different. She's incredibly straightforward. She's very self-assured I think she's 14 in the movie. And I could see being off-put. There's not an ounce of cuteness and very little vulnerability in it. I think, for a 14-year-old girl whose father has been murdered and she's the one seeking vengeance, and feeling like she has to care for her mother who can't handle this and her brother, that seems like who she'd be. I feel like the West toughened people prematurely.
Oh, definitely. And you have to accept the premise that you have a 14-year-old way beyond her age doing all of this. And she's a character, right? And they wouldn't do the movie if it wasn't a character. And look, the Coen Brothers take chances, and when it works, which I think it did in this case, you're like, well, you know what? That was brave. Like Matt Damon's character being slightly attracted to her.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, she's 14 years old, right? I mean, that's
Right.
a hell of
And
a
she's-
chance to take in this
And
day
she's
and
fairly
age.
receptive to it. There's not even a degree of there's not even a degree of societal
Frowning upon
frowning
it.
upon that. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like he's attracted to her, and he knows he probably shouldn't be, but
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
very subtle. Don't think that the movie
Yeah.
is. It's not a big part of the movie at all. Just a little subtle thing there. But beyond her, Josh Brolin was so good. I kept thinking, is that Josh Brolin? Like, I know it's Josh Brolin. I saw it on the billboard. I know, but he was, because normally Josh Brolin plays a tough guy, right? And serious tough. And here he was so dumb that they had did his hair different. I was like, is that Josh Brolin's brother?
You know, but what I thought was, I think it's a great point, because what was interesting here is that you had the man against whom retribution is seeked. Sought. The whole sentence could have been better. The object of the retribution, Josh Brolin, is a dimwit. He's not tough. You get the feeling that he killed because of his own weakness that he killed, not because he's some badass.
Right.
And then the assistant, the LaBeouf, who helps, the Marshal, also seeking to get,
better. It's LaBeef.
Right, LaBeef, right.
Which is a great name.
He's not tough either. He's a dork.
Yes.
You know, and so and the fact that it was Matt Damon playing this sort of, he doesn't know how to do anything cowboyish, yet he's a Texas Ranger. Yet in the end, maybe there's some decency to him. You don't even know what to think. I thought it was a really impressive performance by Matt Damon. Certainly in the sense that it's unlike what else Matt Damon has done. Very hard to typecast Matt Damon.
Oh, no, absolutely. Look, that's the same guy who did Bourne, who did LaBeef.
Yeah.
You know, that's unbelievable. And you're right. And Jeff Bridges is classic Jeff Bridges. If you only have to see one Jeff Bridges movie, I don't know if you go with Big Lebowski or you go with this one, but I mean, he was awesome. Sometimes I don't love Jeff Bridges' characters, but here he did it. Again, Coen Brothers, some of their movies I don't like, okay? But here, all of the quirkiness worked, in my opinion. But I say that all as a prelude to, I think Matt Damon was the best, okay? It's tough to say he was better than Bridges, but Damon pulled off this character you were so, like, almost confused by. He's going in so many different, is he an idiot?
Right.
But he's not quite an idiot,
No,
right?
right.
And he says some smart things, and they pulled off that complexity perfect.
Yeah, he was a complicated guy,
Yeah.
and you don't know what to think about him. And I just liked that there was no real classic tough guy in it. I guess except Jeff Bridges, and maybe Barry Pepper, who also was good. And it was funny. There were a lot of funny moments.
And the movie wound up being badass while kind of winking at the whole thing. And right, and
It was like when it was badass, it was an acknowledgement from the participants that it was accidentally badass.
Right. And I hadn't thought of it the way you said it, but you're right. The guy that they're going to get retribution from is not a classic bad guy. And he was an idiot, and you almost kind of feel bad for him.
Yeah, all these forces coming together to get this. Just let him go. You know?
But it's a good thing they didn't, and then
because he would have killed somebody else, right?
Right. But look, my only complaint about it, other than the fact that it's hard to hear, definitely bring your earpiece. Okay, is that the epilogue was a little so-so. You know, the movie ends basically. You got it.
Oh yeah, right. I've forgotten about it.
And the epilogue, they just crossed the line to being two Coen brothers. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to give away the ending there, but it was a little too quirky, the epilogue, if you ask me. Okay.
Yeah, I think the epilogue was okay. I could have done without it, but I think it was okay because the movie felt like it needed to be a complete story. You weren't seeing a little part of what happened. It almost required that you know everything.
I don't mind them ending it. They should have ended No Country for Old Men. But I didn't love how they ended the epilogue part. I wanted something a little better there. But that's my take on it. All right, so let's do a rating. It's What the Flick. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give it a 9.2, which is of course very, very high, right? Mm-hmm. The only reason why it's not higher is because
there's only 8 decimal points higher.
Well, yes. And plus, really, I'm now saying this for like the 8th time, it's hard to hear, and it's a minus. I missed probably, 20% of the lines, and I bet other people missed 50% of the lines. That's pretty bad, actually, when you think about it. But
You're so old, man. Like, I mean, I just...
Really? You heard everything perfectly clear? You knew exactly what they were saying?
I don't know. I just don't know how to go in that your main criticism was hard to hear. Eh?
What they saying again, Ethel?
Right. This is Cenk's little blurb. Eh?
Okay.
Cenk Uygur, what the flick?
By the way, my dad shouldn't see this movie.
Oh my God, your dad shouldn't see the movie. Yeah, totally. Yeah. I liked True Grit. I did. I didn't put it on my top 10 list, but it almost made it. You know, it was. I love when I say stuff like this. I love when I say stuff that I love when I say stuff like this. I didn't put it on my top 10 list, but it was definitely better than some stuff on the top 10 list.
Now, you know what that is? That's classic Mankiewicz.
It's totally. So I hope everyone understands what that means. I'm going to give it a 7.8.
Oh, you're too tough on it.
I'm going to give it an 8.1.
All right, better. All right.
So the overall rating, just for the two of us then, of True Grit is 8.65.
All right, nice math.
Yeah.
Right on the spot there.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. So you should probably see it. Earpiece.
Huh?